From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, the president calls for weighty sanctions against unconstitutional takeover of government in Africa, challenges European leaders to partner AU in removing all threats to democracy. Fight against COVID-19 in Africa receives a boost as Nigeria and 5 other countries on the continent get WHO's approval to begin production of COVID vaccines. 4 years after Leah Sharibu was captured by Boko Haram insurgents, her parents once again lament her absence, appeal to the president to ensure she's rescued before the end of his tenure. Russia accused of trying to stage a fake crisis in eastern Ukraine has reason to invade the country. Plus, other international news from our London studio.
On Business News tonight, African Development Bank Group approves program to promote investment in renewable energy in Nigeria and 5 other African countries.
On Sports News tonight, Olympic silver medalist Blessing Akagbari has been banned for 10 years by the Athletics Integrity Unit following multiple doping violations.
And from Abuja, Chief of Defense Staff meets with governors of oil-producing states to find lasting solutions to increasing oil theft in the area.
Let's begin. Against the backdrop of recent forceful takeover of government, especially in West Africa, the president is calling for heavy sanctions against unconstitutional change of leadership in countries across the continent. President Muhammadu Buhari made this position known in Brussels during a roundtable discussion on peace, security and governance at the ongoing 6th European Union-African Union Summit in Belgium. He called on European leaders to partner with African countries to promote democracy and support the AU in tackling unconstitutional leadership changes, maintaining that more worrisome is the current state of democracy on the continent, which has become a great source of concern to many of us, with increasing cases of unconstitutional change of governments across the continent, particularly in West Africa. He also challenged European leaders to translate their promises of cooperation to concrete actions, such as shared intelligence on crisis situations, especially on movement of violent extremist groups along the Sahel. Staying at the Brussels summit, Nigeria and 5 other African countries have been chosen to begin production of COVID-19 vaccines against the backdrop of the continent having had limited access to jabs. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus announced that Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya, Senegal, South Africa and Tunisia, who all applied, have been selected as recipients of technology from the organization's global mRNA vaccine hub. President Buhari, who was also present during the announcement, has welcomed the development and called for more collaboration to tackle the effect of the pandemic. The announcement was made by the WHO boss at a ceremony hosted by the European Council, France, South Africa and the WHO.
More than 80% of the population of Africa is yet to receive a single dose. Much of this inequity has been driven by the fact that globally vaccine production is concentrated in a few mostly high-income countries. One of the most obvious lessons of the pandemic, therefore, is the urgent need to increase local production of vaccines, especially in low and middle-income countries. Today, I'm delighted to announce the first 6 African countries that will receive technology from produce their own mRNA vaccines: Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. WHO will work with the companies and the government in each country to develop a roadmap for training and production based on their needs and capacities.
Back home, the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room is restating its call on the president to sign the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the chairman of the group and country director of Action Aid, Mrs. NLB, explains that failure to do so will have dire consequences on the successful conduct of the two off-cycle elections in Ekiti and Osun states, as well as the 2023 general elections.
This is a special press briefing called by a coalition of over 70 civil society organizations which make up the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room to express their displeasure over the non-assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by President Buhari, despite the reworking by the National Assembly.
I know members of the press may have one or two questions.
INEC is empowered by law to release the notice for general elections at least a year before its conduct. However, members of civil society organizations are apprehensive that February 22nd, 2022 will make it exactly a year to the 2023 general elections, and without a proper law to govern its conduct, the elections might be in jeopardy.
Of the Electoral Bill 2022 requires INEC to issue notice of election not later than 360 days before the day appointed for an election. As indicated by INEC, the scheduled date for the 2023 presidential election and National Assembly election is February 18, 2023. However, if the President acts on the bill after the 22nd February 2022, the date for the 2023 election and other subsequent elections, all the activities might be affected.
The group is also exploring other ways to compel the president, like staging a protest if the president fails to assent to the bill.
The next step for us, within the remit of what we can do as civil society, will be to, of course, explore the possibility of protests and also the lobbying that you talked about.
While applauding the National Assembly for correcting the issues of drafting errors and cross-referencing raised by civil society organizations, the group says there is a correction which is more about its interpretation.
We're happy to report that 98% of all the drafting errors and the cross-referencing gaps have been resolved based on the transmitted version of the bill that we have reviewed. There's just one clause in particular that is yet to be resolved, but that again is also a subject of interpretation.
The group insists that it will continue to lobby and urge President Buhari to sign the bill without further delay.
To other issues now, residents of Abuja and a few other states where petrol now sells at above official price band are asking the federal government to sanction erring fuel stations. Meanwhile, some fuel stations seem to have taken advantage of the huge demand for petrol to mark up prices. But authorities maintain there is enough petrol being injected into the system. Our correspondent, Olu Phillips, reports.
Will normalcy return to the downstream oil sector, especially as it concerns sales and purchase of petrol from fuel stations across the country? In the last 2 weeks, from places like Lagos and few other states, supply has been hampered by the processes we now know are the attempts to revitalize the supply chain and call back an off-spec petrol, and that has lingered beyond expectations. Stations are now the most besieged places, despite assurances by authorities of an improved supply process and quantum of product. Updates from the South-South region, Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, has motorists paying more for the products above approved price band. We hear some sell as high as 250 naira to a litre, a possible case of making an already difficult situation worse. The call from the residents aren't any far-fetched. Some marketers are already in breach of the law. In Akure, the state capital, only a few major marketers are open for business. The independent marketers have their retail outlets shut as some motorists express suspicion that independent marketers have the product but are hoarding it with the aim of selling at inflated costs. Abuja isn't looking pleasant yet as fuel queues at petrol stations entered another week in the nation's capital. Motorists also lament the impact of scarcity, which has seen prices rise to above 500 naira per litre at secondary supplies. Port Harcourt, the River State capital, has also taken a hit, and there's some explanation to that. The chairman of Petroleum Product Retail Owners Association in River State says the scarcity in the state is as a result of the pressure from Lagos and Abuja, adding that dealers now come to River State to buy from the depot for products meant for Rivers market, thereby depleting the quantity and causing price inflation.
We are doing our best to buy this product and sell it at 165 to our people. But as it stands now, for us to get product circulating in Rivers State, we have to compete with other people from other parts of the nation that are here, struggling with one or two depots that are discharging fuel. We compete it with them. We get it if they say they want to buy for 165, for 170, for 175, for one. We struggle with them as Rivers marketers. We buy it and sell to our people. But the challenge is that once you buy that fuel at 170 or 168 and you want to sell at 165, the whole law enforcement agent, the whole Boy Scout, the whole Boys Brigade, the whole civil, the whole everything, they will pound on you and call you names. They will call you armed robbers. They will call you any kind of names. So that is why the thing has fallen on us in Rivers State now.
We sought to know what and where the missing link is, if federal government says there is enough to go round and still there's a struggle to get the product.
I've spoken to some of the stakeholders of the COF, and I understand that there is enough fuel now to move around. However, the question is why the queue? It is expected because the supply chain has been broken, and to inject the new fuel into the system, it's going to take a while, and that is the period we are going through. It is the back logistic period, or we call it the reverse logistics period that we're going through, and I believe it should end soon.
Clearly, bridging the gap a bit more efficiently will only go to justify the numbers put out there by federal government in terms of availability. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
To the judiciary now, where a federal high court in Abuja has sentenced two ex-policemen, James Eje and Simeon Abraham, to death for armed robbery. They were arraigned on October 20, 2017 by the police on a two-count charge bordering on conspiracy and armed robbery. In his ruling, Justice Peter Kekemeke held that the prosecutor proved his case by calling 4 witnesses, and their evidence corroborated the prosecutor's case beyond reasonable doubt. Justice Kekemeke held that the evidence before the court proved that there was a robbery by the defendants and they were armed. He added that there was admission of guilt by defendants and no evidence was stronger than own admission. The prosecution counsel, Kufe Abasi Ebon, had told the court that on January 17, 2017, at about 1 in the morning, the defendant, as police officers, were dressed in their uniforms while robbing one Christy Maker, who was coming from Abuja Airport, of her personal belongings. He added that the offense contravened the provisions of Sections 6 and 1, Subsection 2 of Robbery and Firearms Special Provisions Act 2004. In part 2 after the break, parents of 2-year-old schoolgirl manhandled by her teacher in Lagos speak out as Lagos State government shuts facility following public condemnation of the incident. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The president calls for weighty sanctions against unconstitutional takeover of government in Africa. Challenges European leaders to partner AU in removing all threats to democracy. Fight against COVID-19 in Africa receives a boost as Nigeria and 5 other countries on the continent get WHO's approval to begin production of COVID vaccines. 4 years after Leah Sharibu was captured by Boko Haram insurgents, her parents once again lament her absence, appeal to the president to ensure she is rescued before the end of his tenure. And Russia accused of trying to stage a fake crisis in eastern Ukraine as reason to invade the country. It's been 4 years since Leah Sharibu was abducted alongside 109 other girls by Boko Haram at the height of the insurgency when her school was attacked in Dapchi, Edo State. A month after the abduction, the girls were released, but Leah was held back in captivity for refusing to renounce her Christian faith. According to the spokesperson for the family, the government's promises to free her have yet to yield any result. But Leah's parents say they're not giving up and are once again calling on the president to ensure the release of their daughter before his administration lapses.
I'm pleading with the president of Nigeria, Mr. Buhari, to fulfill his promise, because he has made several promises. He promised the family, he promised Nigerians, and even promised the whole world that his administration will do his possible best to see that my daughter returns home safely. And up to now, today is good 4 years without hearing anything from him again. And much more, his tenure is about to finish. So I'm pleading to him to fulfill his promise before the end of his tenure. And I'm calling for the Nigerians and the members of the press to please put pressure on the federal government concerning the release of my daughter.
And just a few weeks ago, the Chief of Staff, the Army Chief of Staff, gave assurances that Leah will soon be released. As a family, we didn't come out to speak or to question, hoping that by today, we will be rejoicing and the entire world will be rejoicing that this young child is back home and that the government has fulfilled its promise. And the whole of Nigerians, mothers and young children will be happy. But here we are today, 4 years, few weeks that the Army Chief of Staff himself have spoken. We are saddened, and we just hope and pray that the Army is also not just speaking like the federal government has been speaking, making promises that will just rise our hopes up, and unfortunately, we have to dash those hopes down.
"17 persons have died in a road accident which occurred at the Ishara end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway earlier today. The route commander of the Ogun State sector of the Federal Road Safety Corps and the public education officer of the FRSC, Florence Ope, says the casualty figures could be higher. The victims were said to have been burnt beyond recognition in the incident, which involved 2 vehicles. The FRSC attributes the cause of the accident to route violation and dangerous driving, which resulted in a head-on collision and a fire outbreak. Here in Lagos, the state government has sealed unique Velos Montessori school, Mazamaza, over the flogging of a 2-year-old girl, a cherished Ohamadike, by her teacher, Miss Joy Igile, who inflicted marks on her back. Our correspondent Bukola Samuel Wemimo has been following this story and now reports.
Unique Velos School operates on the top floor of this story building in what appears to be less than safe conditions for elementary school children. The family of the abused child lives in the same premises as the proprietress and the teacher who allegedly slammed little Cherish 24 strokes of the cane, while the school where the flogging occurred is just opposite their house. This uncomfortable proximity informed the decision of the parents of the girl to speak with Channels Television at a different location.
I saw bruises all over her back. I was mad. As in, I was like, who did this to my daughter? I ran downstairs. So I have to come back again. I met my son. I asked him, who did this to Cherish? He said, Mommy, it's the school teacher that they flogged her 24 lashes. I said, what? They flogged my daughter. Again, I just recovering from sickness. The school now have turned the case and said that my daughter is putting her inside her private parts. That was why they flogged her. Why the teacher is saying that no, that my daughter refused to read ABCD. That was why she flogged my daughter.
What really pained me is that the teacher himself, since then, he never even called to apologize to me, say, even the family.
Faustina Ohamadike says she was initially weary of taking up the case, but when the perpetrator of the act began threatening her, she decided to share her daughter's story online.
The teacher now said that, you don't get a CB, I go still flog you, Cherish. I'll go flog you under your leg, where nobody will see the mark. Your mama said no go see the mark. I was like, is this people okay? I said, Joy, this is since you flogged my daughter. This is the first time since you flogged my daughter, I have not set my eyes on you. Instead of you to tell me that you're sorry, and you're here threatening my daughter in my own presence. The teacher's boyfriend sent me a message day before yesterday. He also sent me yesterday, and even today, threatening me that I have done my own, Abi. I should wait for him.
Channels Television put a call through to the proprietress of Unique Villas Montessori School, Mrs. Stella Omowele, asking her to confirm or deny these allegations.
It's a family something anyway, but we are on it now. We are resolving the difference between us. She's my sister, she's my neighbor. We live in the same compound.
Yes, she said that. She said that.
We are resolving it by the grace of God.
Speaking on the closure of the school, the State Commissioner for Education says the facts of the matter necessitated the action.
It's a very sorry situation. And after looking at the facts of the case and the facts that this was even an unapproved institution with children there, obviously in an unsafe environment where a child was beaten, and nobody thought that there was something seriously wrong with that within the school community. We knew that the best thing to do is to stop that school from providing such a service henceforth.
Unique Villas Montessori School, where the flogging of 2-year-old Cherish occurred, had no certification or approval from the state government for its operations.
There are so many of them, and obviously we don't have enough schools to take in these children if we close down their institutions. So why don't we help them and work with them through the process of becoming approved? Because once they are approved, then you know they have certain minimum facilities and they can actually look after the children. And we are going to set up a task force now. We have no choice at this point. I think Deepen went a bit moribund, but we are reviving it again. We are in the process and we will soon start going about.
Another parent who declined commenting on camera said the condition of the school compelled her and her husband to act. According to her, when my husband saw the unwholesome condition of the school, he insisted that we withdraw the children from Unique Villas Montessori School last term, which we did. The parents of the abused girl confirmed to Channels Television that a combined team of the State Ministry of Justice, the Domestic Violence and Response Unit, and the Ministry of Youth and Social Development arrested the teacher and proprietress of Unique Villas Montessori School on Monday. The proprietress was released the same day, while the teacher is still in detention. While the family of little Cherish Ohamadike is demanding justice, the outcome of the prosecution of the alleged perpetrator, whose case has now been charged to court, will no doubt serve as a deterrent to teachers and caregivers in other schools with similar tendencies.
Makes you really think, doesn't it? Still ahead on the news at 10. Chief of Defense Staff meets with the governors of oil-producing states, increasing oil theft in the area. Plus, African Development Bank Group approves program to promote investment in renewable energy in Nigeria and 5 other African countries. That's still ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Benin City, the Edo State capital, the border issues border on lack of interest in filling the police recruitment quota for Edo State came to the fore today at a meeting of the Police Service Commission, the Edo Police Command and other stakeholders. During the Community Engagement Forum held at the Edo Local Government Council, Local Government Secretariat in the capital city, participants shared their views on the way security concerns can be dealt with. Our Edo State correspondent Osaze Obaze reports.
A potpourri of stakeholders at the occasion. This community engagement forum is organized by the Police Service Commission, South-South Zone, and the Edo State Police Command in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
Must encourage upright and responsible citizens to apply for recruitment.
The Commissioner Police Service Commission South-South wonders why Edo State is nonchalant about placement of indigents in the police academy.
Police academy. Edo State is one of the states that does not care whether it has students in police academy. And I will urge my friend through this forum to try and see how you can encourage your youth. The other states send representatives from time to time to interact with their candidates in the police academy.
The Commissioner Edo State Police Command is grateful to the Police Service Commission for helping the police force. He, however, challenges Edo indigents to turn up for recruitments.
We need enough men. The men are not coming out. Please, release your young boys. Let them leave Yahoo and come and join us so that we can fight together.
Edo State Governor, represented by his Chief of Staff, assures that the state government will fix the shortfall in recruitment quota.
We are working on it. It's a work in progress. And I want to assure you that very soon you will see our people come out, including our boys. Don't worry, the Yahoo menace will soon. We will make sure that there is enough information out there for them to realize that they can make a living out of being sincere citizens.
This public affairs analyst believes that encouraging the state vigilante will help in assisting the police.
If our local vigilantes are motivated from that security vote, they will go to the bush to bring out these good laws. But because they are volunteers and nothing is being given to them, there is no hope that if they die in the course of this job, somebody will take care of their family. That's why in so many occasions when you call them, they'll be drag-fitting.
The feeling here is that the shortfall in recruitment will soon cease to exist, and it will be a win-win situation in fighting criminality in Edo State. Osaze Obaze, Channels Television News.
Here's Linda in Abuja with more on the news at 10. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi. Now staying with security. Insecurity in the Niger Delta, particularly with regard to the theft of crude oil there, is giving the Chief of Defense Staff cause for concern. To address this challenge, the Defense Chief, General Lucky Rabo, has met with governors from the oil-producing states in Abuja. The emergency meeting was called at the instance of the President, who is said to have expressed concern that increasing oil theft continues to deplete government's revenue. The Chief of Defense Staff is leading other heads of security agencies to this meeting with governors from the Niger Delta region. The objective is to discuss solutions to the increasing cases of crude oil theft in the Niger Delta region, which has affected government's resources.
Mr. President has mandated me to engage with the governors of the oil-producing states in the light of the current challenges that we have within the oil and gas sector. The nation currently is bleeding, and we thought as necessary to reverse the trend.
I do think that this collaboration is a very welcome idea, and that it will give us the room for even greater collaboration, because we require a stakeholders approach to this very challenging issue. As for us, the more oil we're able to produce, the more gas we're able to produce, the better for our states, because to a very large extent it will improve the revenues that we have.
The meeting then entered into a closed door. Some moments later, the Chief of Defense Staff briefs journalists about the outcome of the meeting.
We've taken decisions that will enable us to increase the productivity coming from the oil and gas space and to bring greater security to the entire region where oil and gas exploration is being undertaken. So it's quite fruitful, and I believe that going forward, Nigerians will see a change.
The federal government had projected a 4.2 million daily crude oil production for 2022, but recent acts of crude oil theft in the Niger Delta has impacted negatively on this projection. This is the reason why the government is seeking a solution to the menace.
Nigerians in the diaspora are slowly changing the negative perception often associated with the country, especially when it has to do with financial dealings. Now, one of them is Lieutenant Victor Agumbiade, a U.S. Navy officer who is awarded a medal for judiciously managing the U.S. Navy's largest overseas cash disbursement office that involved $45 million. Lieutenant Agumbiade harps on the need for honesty and transparency, especially for public office holders, as it goes a long way towards shaping and developing the society.
For someone to entrust his value or his property into your hand, and you have a duty to protect it and preserve it. So with that background, and then with my Christian values, going there and for me to be able to, for the U.S. Navy, to entrust such huge amount of cash, cash money into my care, to me was like a sacred trust, which I knew that number one, I'm responsible to God to make sure I uphold that integrity and trust. To be honest, to me, I think it's crazy for people to embezzle money, and I think it's insane. I think it's criminal, and I think when it's not your money, it's not your money. If somebody you're getting paid to manage that money, and if your salary is not enough for you to manage that money, leave the job and do another job, and give those jobs to those who can do it very well, and make sure those funds go to the right sources and the people they are meant to go to.
To catch the full interview with Lieutenant Victor Agumbiade, do watch Diaspora Network on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. In line with the spirit of reorientating citizens towards honesty and hard work, Governor Godwin Obaseki believes that the brilliance deployed by internet fraudsters, popularly referred to as Yahoo boys, can be channeled to a better cause. While admitting that he would not be hasty in condemning the cyber fraudsters, the Edo State governor says instead he would find ways to address the root cause of the problems, as was done in the case of illegal migration. Mr. Obaseki was speaking during a town hall meeting on Edo State education policy in the state capital, Benin City.
I am concerned, like you, with what's going on post-JSS 3. It is a big issue, this whole cyber frauds and this Yahoo culture. I'm calling on each and every one of you, please send as much information as you can to my office. On Monday, I'm going to see the chairman of EFCC. I don't want to send, I'm not condemning those people involved. There must be a reason why that culture has become so prolific in Edo State. We must find the root causes. Let us address those root causes like we did in the case of trafficking, and let's see how we can now correct. Because these children must be very brilliant. Because the kind of things they get to, how to hack into other people's accounts, it shows that they're thinking. How do we redirect that thinking into something more positive? Is it possible? And I'm sure as Edo people, we can help the country in that regard.
The Kogi State government is promising to continue to pay counterpart funds for program and projects which will enhance the livelihood of rural dwellers in the state. The Deputy Governor, Mr. Edward Onoja, disclosed this in Government House, Lokoja, the state capital, when he hosted the President's daughter, Mrs. Fatima Buhari, who was in the state to inspect the various sites of the Value Chain Development Program under the federal government and the International Fund for Agricultural Development assisted projects in the states.
The Marketing Enterprise Development Advisor for the Value Chain Development of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, Fatima Buhari, is in Kogi State to meet farmers participating in the program. First, she meets with officials of the state government, led by the Deputy Governor, Mr. Edward Onoja.
We have successfully completed 30 infrastructural projects and handed them over to beneficiaries. And this includes 3 processing centers. We have one at Ajaokuta local government, one in Olamaboro, another one in Lokoja local government.
We in Kogi State will continue to focus on these critical areas, not removing our eyes from the security of lives and properties of our people, especially our hard-working women in these rural communities.
She then proceeds to one of the rice processing centers in Ajaokuta local government area of the state, accompanied by the wife of the Deputy Governor, Mrs. Ejura Onoja, and the Secretary to the state government, Mrs. Folashade Arike.
These ones are 2 kg. They have been processed and packaged.
The beneficiaries of the projects take time to narrate their experiences.
We were trained on this. It was like a joke. But honestly, it's already in the market. We make it, we sell, and we earn living from it. VCDP has taught me that you cannot only eat with biro, but you can eat through agriculture.
While appreciating the farmers for their efforts, Mrs. Buhari expressed satisfaction with the impact the program has had on the lives of rural farmers.
The government and our president, for he is the one that is pushing us more into agriculture to eradicate poverty. And you are so favored by God to have Governor Yahya Bello and his deputy also, and his member of council. So thank them also. And we thank you for cooperating once again.
She's hoping to work out the modalities to engage more farmers in the program.
And that's all from Abuja. Now to Teniola for business news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Linda. Welcome to Business News. The African Development Bank Group has approved the Leveraging Energy Access Finance Framework to promote decentralized renewable energy in 6 African countries. The $800 million program will help spur commercial and local currency investment to scale up the activities of the centralized renewable energy companies in Nigeria, Ghana, Guinea, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tunisia. On its part, the AFDB is expected to commit about $164 million to the program. Under LEAF, 18 decentralized renewable energy projects are expected to be financed, providing access to 6 million people and businesses. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies says it plans to include Iran in its oil supply deal after the country's nuclear talks with world powers. A successful outcome to the talks could lift U.S. sanctions on Iran's exports, potentially bringing 1.3 million barrels per day of Iranian oil back into the market. The its output could ease tight global supply and take some heat out of a rally that has taken benchmark prices to almost $100 per barrel. OPEC Plus is gradually boosting oil output after making record cuts in 2020 when demand collapsed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Economic and business think tank, the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises, has reacted to the positive GDP report released by the National Bureau of Statistics for the fourth quarter of 2021. While commending the positive growth numbers, the Chief Executive Officer of CPPE, Dr. Muda Yusuf, says there's still a great deal of work to be done to translate the growth to improved welfare and prosperity of small businesses. According to him, this would require a mix of fiscal, monetary and social policy interventions. He explained that the GDP growth must impact on citizens' welfare, create jobs, alleviate poverty, reduce inequality, ensure prosperity of small businesses and promote inclusion. Nigeria's stock market rebounded in today's trading session, boosted by the consumer goods counter. The all-share index rose slightly by 0.08%. John Mekwa tells us more.
Well, thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market reports. And I'm happy to say that the market recovered today, closing the week, which has been described as a choppy one, in a very positive note. The mild upward movement brought 21 billion naira gain to the total market value, more than yesterday's loss. And this should be enough to cover up for the week's losses. And this has put the bull back in charge. So let's look at the counters now. Not a very good outing for oil and gas. It shed more than 0.3%. Eternal Oil once again lost 15 kobo from its share price. I wonder what Eternal Oil has to do with 15 kobo. Banking had its gain even though it was marginal. So where did the lifting of the market come from? We look at consumer goods counter. That is where it was. Nigerian breweries released their full year 2021 earnings, and it was an impressive one. So this attracted investors to its shares as it added 50 kobo to close at 48 naira. Northern Nigeria Flour Mill also gained 95 kobo. Of course, they added to the positive sentiment. Honeywell also gained 36 kobo. They close at 4 naira 2 kobo. So we end the week with a positive market breadth. 27 gainers against 15 losers. A good way to end the week. That's the stock market report. I'm John Mekwa.
Thanks a lot, Ini. Meanwhile, let's check out the closing numbers for other major markets around the world. Business News tonight. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Teniola. Russia has been accused of trying to stage a fake crisis in the breakaway eastern region of Ukraine to give it a reason to launch an invasion. Earlier, Russian-backed rebel leaders in Donbass announced an evacuation of residents, saying Ukraine had intensified shelling and was planning an attack. Ukraine has denied planning an offensive and has accused Russia of spreading disinformation. For more on the Ukraine conflict and other international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia has announced major military exercises on Saturday that will involve ballistic and cruise missile launches. The drills, which will be overseen by President Vladimir Putin, were apparently planned in advance. Russia's joint drills with Belarus are due to finish on Sunday, while firing exercises in the Black Sea are set to end a day earlier. Ukraine's defense minister says there are now around 149,000 Russian troops, airmen and sailors surrounding Ukraine. Greek and Italian boats have rushed to evacuate 290 people on board a ferry that burst into flames near Corfu in the Ionian Sea. Mobile phone footage shows the Euroferry Olympia with huge plumes of smoke coming from it. It had left Igoumenitsa in Greece and was heading to the Italian port of Brindisi when fire reportedly broke out on deck. Unconfirmed reports said 10 people were not yet accounted for. The Greek Coast Guard said 239 passengers and 51 crew had been on the ferry at the time. More heavy rains in Petropolis in Brazil are forecast to come after floods and landslides killed at least 117 people, with more than 100 now missing. The rescue mission has been temporarily called off, and some people fearing more destruction have fled the city. One volunteer rescuer said that finding survivors under the rubble was now practically impossible. This week's rainfall in Petropolis was the heaviest in nearly a century.
Together with the firefighters and the civil defense, we estimate 700 people are homeless. That is a huge number, and we are trying to provide them with a roof, food, and some hygiene items for the time being.
An Indian court has sentenced 38 Muslim men to death and ordered life in prison for 11 others for a series of bomb blasts in 2008 in the city of Ahmedabad that killed more than 50 people. A judge ordered the punishment, describing the incident as the rarest of cases in which innocent lives were lost. The explosions had badly shaken the western state of Gujarat, where Hindu-Muslim riots in 2002 are believed to have killed thousands, mostly Muslims. A group called the Indian Mujahideen had claimed responsibility for the blasts on July the 26th, 2008. Some airplanes have struggled to land in high winds at London's Heathrow Airport as Storm Eunice batters Britain. Footage broadcast by Jet TV showed incoming passenger jets being buffeted by gusts of wind, with some bouncing upon landing and others diverting. Britain's meteorological service says Storm Eunice, which began in the central Atlantic, poses a danger to life. Footage from London's O2 Arena shows parts of the building's roof being torn off. It's one of the biggest storms to hit the UK in decades. Hollywood actor Brad Pitt has filed a lawsuit against his ex-wife Angelina Jolie for selling her stake in a French vineyard they owned together. The former couple bought the Chateau Miraval estate, located in the southern French village of Correns, in 2008. They also married there in 2014. The couple split in 2016 and have been embroiled in a bitter divorce battle. The widely quoted legal documents refer to Jolie selling her stake in October to a Luxembourg-based spirits manufacturer. And finally, in freezing temperatures, 2 Canadians have been staging a so-called jacuzzi protest outside an Ottawa street to call for an end to COVID-19 vaccine and mask mandates.
Just inflation.
The protesters, Jean-Philippe and Gabrielle, set up their hot tub in central Ottawa as police warned protesters of imminent action to clear them from the capital.
We're gonna win. We are winning. Yeah. We got strong hands. Working hands. Working hands do that.
Truckers opposing coronavirus mandates have blocked roads in downtown Ottawa for nearly 3 weeks, the centrepiece of a movement that has inspired anti-government protests in other countries and temporarily shut border crossings with the United States. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Nigeria's Super Falcons are on the verge of booking a ticket for the Women's African Nations Cup following a 2-0 win over Cote d'Ivoire in the first leg of the final round of qualifiers played at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Well, the Falcons will definitely get a chance to secure that ticket to Morocco on Wednesday, February the 23rd, when they play the second leg in Abidjan. Nigerian sprinter Blessing Akagbare has been given a 10-year ban from athletics for multiple anti-doping rule breaches by the Athletics Integrity Unit, AIU. The AIU's disciplinary tribunal banned the 33-year-old for 5 years for the use of multiple prohibited substances and a further 5 for refusing to cooperate with the organization's investigation. Well, she has 30 days to appeal the decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. Meanwhile, Great Britain has been stripped of its Tokyo 2020 Olympics silver medal in the men's 4x100 meters relay after the Court of Arbitration for Sport upheld Chijindu Uja's anti-doping violation. Uja has been provisionally suspended since Ostarine and S23, both substances prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Organization, were detected in his sample in Tokyo. Uja and his relay teammates finished second behind Italy. And Manchester United FC manager Ralf Rangnick has rubbished reports that there is a rift between Harry Maguire and Cristiano Ronaldo over the club's captaincy, insisting the England international will remain in place. Maguire took to Twitter on Friday, that's today, to respond to a report by British newspaper Daily Mirror that he and Ronaldo are embroiled in a power struggle.
This is absolutely nonsense. I have never spoken with any player about a possible change of captaincy, and Harry is fully aware of that, and so is Cristiano and all the other players. So this has never been an issue for me. It's me who decides who is the captain, and therefore there is no reason for me to speak about that with any other person. Harry is our captain, and he will stay our captain until the end of the season, and there is nothing else to say to add on to that.
And that sports news is back to Maraj.
Thanks, Ayatunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today called for heavy sanctions against unconstitutional change in leadership in countries across the African continent. He made the position known in Brussels during the roundtable discussion on peace, security and governance at the ongoing 6th EU-AU summit in Belgium. Also today, the fight against COVID-19 in Africa received a boost as Nigeria and 5 other countries on the continent secured WHO's approval to begin production of COVID vaccines. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. From all of us here, it's good night and enjoy the weekend.